Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Pot Smoker's Bible. My name is Zion. I'm the author of the Pot Smoker's Bible, which contains the prophetic book of Zion, where I get my name and authority. It comes from the Ketuvim, or Christian Old Testament. I use the King James Version of the Bible to put together the prophecy of Israel from the scattered bits and pieces of testimony from the various prophets of the Old Testament. What I came up with was the Book of Zion, a book totally of prophecy, which outlines in great detail 2020. And in order to publish the Book of Zion, I had to write the commentary book, Potsmoker's Bible. And in order to fulfill my final obligation as Zion, I am publishing peace free of charge on social media. Today, I am reading to you from the 19th chapter of the Potsmoker's Bible, which contains the 16th chapter of the Book of Zion. It's called They That Hate Me. And I'm going to take up where I left off last time. I was discussing the major players in the plot to create the prohibition against marijuana, which was Dow Chemical, senator from Texas and a senator from Louisiana, and who I had just introduced yesterday, or last time, is Harry J. Anslinger, who took up the cause and used the power of his government office to create a propaganda campaign using the media to create a public panic in order to pass the laws prohibiting marijuana use. Hemp was banned simply because it just looked like marijuana, so it was just easier to ban it than to let it continue to be legally used. The ban of hemp is ridiculous. Dow Chemical took over the hemp-based production at great profit as a result. That is why hemp was banned, to benefit Dow Chemical. And hemp could only be banned by the ban of marijuana, its closely related cousin. Now, from 1939 to 1945, Dow's net profit increased 11-fold, from $11,229,152.45 in 1939 to $124,570,200 in 1945. So the ban on hemp gave Dow Chemical the means to sell its chemical-based plastics at profit. If hemp had never been banned, Dow would never have profited from plastics, because hemp had always been used in that capacity. Dow Chemical profited from the ban on hemp, which resulted from the ban on marijuana. The ban on hemp did more than just profit Dow, though. It led to the way to the use of chemicals in place of natural resources. Plastic introduced a new form of manufacturing, which has led us to our current state of affairs. It wasn't the plastic itself, it was the pollution created and the corporate methods of profit above all else. Dow led the way to the replacement of nature as a source of materials. The lobbyists of Dow used the racist tendencies of the Southern politicians to create their plastic world. The prejudice of the white male ego is at the heart of the war on drugs. The prohibition of marijuana was the result of the prejudice of Texas against Mexicans and the prejudice of Southern whites from Louisiana who wanted to keep the blacks in line. The prohibition of marijuana created a law that allowed Texas to deport Mexicans, and it allowed Louisiana to imprison blacks, who were known to use marijuana in conjunction with their jazz music. This prohibition was created along the lines of the 20s laws against alcohol, a holy crusade to save America from the menace of drug use. Big money bought the laws that oppress us, but it was the profits to be gained by the governments by such laws that no doubt swayed the government. to reenact a failed policy of the 20s. Our corporate plastics society was created by Dow Chemical. In order for the war on drugs to have been for the public good, it should have been evident prior to its enactment. There should have been an overwhelming need for such restrictions. Where are the facts and figures that prove the harm inflicted on society by the people who use drugs? What harm does drug use cause to society prior to 1939? There is no evidence of marijuana being a factor in violent acts of criminal behavior prior to 1939, or really at any point after that. All violence associated with marijuana is a direct result of the prohibition. All of the violence can be argued comes from the pressure placed on my people by the state. This violence is not because of the drug use. It's because of the laws prohibiting the drug use and the tactic used against us. The violence, for the most part, is perpetuated by the police against my people. All you have to do is watch an episode of Cops to have it shoved in your face. You, as a society, glorify the torture and brutality visited upon us. It's not just black lives that matter. Drug users' lives matter too. The violence of the police state is clearly evident in the police state. Is clearly evident in the media. The war on drugs persecutes not the user of the drugs, but the businessman providing the commodity. It's the businessman that is imprisoned, not the user. The salesman goes to jail. It's not doing drugs that's punished. It's selling the drugs. This is an economic war, not a moral war. And that is ridiculous. In an open market society like ours, the state doesn't have the right to restrict trade in America. The free enterprise system is one of the founding principles of American democracy. It postulates that the economy should not be bound by laws of the state, that it should be allowed to use consumer indicators to operate. Commodities should be dictated by public demand, not by state regulations. In other words, the state doesn't choose what the consumer wants, so it's unlawful for the state to determine saleable commodities. By what right does the state impose its will on the market? In our economic system, the market alone dictates what is bought and sold, supply and demand. As long as there is something to sell, supply, it can be sold. However, the will of the consumer decides what is actually marketable. If the public wants it, it will sell. Sorry, state, but people do want drugs. Suppliers want to sell drugs. Whether a market is stock-based or black, the consumer dictates the economy of this country, not the state. The funny thing is, drugs were at the best a non-issue prior to 1939. I tried to find evidence of drug abuse prior to 1939. I couldn't find any, aside from the opioid wars and opium. Okay, so drug abuse wasn't really a thing. Neither was the sale of drugs. It just didn't exist. No one knew how many drugs were used or sold prior to 1939. So, just as the Torah states, prohibition of marijuana in 1939 created a population of drug users. If the 1939 law had never been passed, no one would know or care about a few people who use drugs because the law advertised the effects of the drugs. That is what got people to try the drugs in the first place. Thanks, America, for turning us all on to our beloved marijuana. So the reality of the war on drugs is as follows. 1. The Grey dictated their plans for the return of their clones through the Torah prophets. Zion is foretold. 2. History is shaped to create the right conditions for the prophecy to be enacted, as foretold. 3. The Grey return in the early 1900s. They began shaping the laws leading up to the 1939 laws. 1915 cocaine, 1920 alcohol prohibition, the template for 1939. 4. Dow Chemical is pushed to create prohibition of marijuana to ban the hemp, which prevents them from profiting from the plastic products. 5. Lobbyists from Dow work with Texas and Louisiana to ban marijuana and hemp to deport Mexicans and to imprison blacks. 6. Anslinger takes the idea and uses his power to create a propaganda campaign using the media to create hysteria over false claims of violent behavior when high, which is a lie. 7. Prohibition of marijuana passes. The Grey Plan is set in motion. Fast forward to the 1960s. The first true generation of Zionites appear, the hippies and the flower children. They come together in protest of the war in Vietnam. 9. President Nixon creates the idea of a war on hippies as he sends troops to Kent State, where the first Zionites die in the public eye. The war on drugs has begun. 10. President Ronald Reagan declares the war on drugs officially, creating the Nation of Zion by the declaration of war against them. Wars are fought by nations, between nations. These nations are sovereign states. Zion is a nation because it is in a state of war. No rightful citizen of the Nation of Zion chooses to wage this war. In fact, we have never even acknowledged the war. No Zionite attacks have ever been staged. No drug user has ever declared war on the state of any nation. We, who are the citizens of Zion by right of choice, choose to suffer rather than to return the violence. We didn't incite this war. We didn't do anything to justify the claims of the state. We didn't even exist prior to the war. We haven't fought back in word or deed. We try to keep a low profile. We don't try to wage this war. In fact, we meekly submit to everything the state chooses to do to us. I know that the state and all those who believe the state will cry foul at this point. They will justify their beliefs by citing all of the propaganda taught by the media. Sorry, Oprah, you were a pawn. And I say, bring it on. You see, it's all been a one-sided freak show up until now. The media finds examples of what it thinks of as my people in general, when in real life, they are the extreme cases. And if you listen to the true victim, you'll hear the truth. And that's where I'm going to stop right now. So may the Grey watch over you, guide you, protect you, and keep you from all harm. May they teach you right from wrong, and may you be worthy of them. May your thoughts, words, and deeds reflect truth, good, and light the unicorn way. Find your joy and pursue it. Make that your guild choice. If you use drugs, stay happy and high. You have every right and reason to. Believe me, I know I wrote the book. And I'm going to say later now, because you know me. I love you way too much to ever say goodbye.